Another question. What would your view be, given the likelihood is that they may raise the retirement age? If there are so many young people we're predicting are going to be out of work, do you think that's a good idea or not? Should they in fact keep the retirement age at what it is and potentially create jobs for the younger ones?
In America, if you walk into Yale Department of History, there's a very disconcerting sense that you walked into the House of Lords, because it's now full of extremely old people. The House of Lords is a bit like Valhalla. They're full of people that you thought were dead, they're not. And Yale Department of History, because the American universities now, they can't set people. And people can't leave. So, and although I'm all in favour of 85-year-olds still teaching, you look at it and you think, this is impossible. You know, where are the 30-year-old historians? So anyway, sorry, what do you think?
Well, there's no labour market. We need to recast labour market policy. David Blanchflower, who was the one labour market economist on the Monetary Policy Committee, was banging away at this, that you need some kind of a labour market strategy. It's quite difficult to try and come up with one in a downturn, but it's precisely questions like this that are posed, because, of course, the problem for the young generation is that they're going to be hit as follows. They won't be able to spend their way out of through their youth as the 1980s and 90s people did, because credit's gone. So you can't walk into a bar and buy a credit card, because credit card's got a limit now. And then the student loan is on top of that. On top of that, then they have no pensions themselves. There's no pension, increasingly, of any description. And then on top of that, you can't get a job. I mean, I think that it's happened in France to an extent. I think that in this crisis, I do predict, I think this will happen in Britain, in the Anglo-Saxon countries, the young are going to get pissed off with the old. If the old are sitting there in the only jobs that are worth having, with all the accumulated rights, pensions, tenure, whatever, houses, whatever, they are going to just get incredibly... I would see a demographic split happening, but give it 5 years. It's not there now, but give it 5 years.
But I mean, just as we haven't got one face of the unemployed in this recession, I think there is different patterns emerging around the country, and in some industries it feels very much like what's happening is it's a squeeze from both ends. That it's the 30s and 40-year-olds who are doing well. It's the younger generation, and it's the older age group that are really doing badly. And if you lose your job in your 50s, then in some parts of the country you're in really bad shape. So I think there's something about the way in which our society sort of crams our productive years into those 2 decades, which is wrong. And it's wrong not just because of the distributional effects elsewhere, it's also wrong because we don't live our lives like that, and those are years when we also have caring responsibilities, etc., etc. So thinking about the lifespan of work in a different way, I think is what we've got to do. And in my view, raise the retirement age.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that's the age, 30s, 40s, when people have kids, where maybe they want to do less work, and instead that's when they're working all the time. I mean, in the kind of world that I live in, which is a kind of based on middle-class professionals, something I notice in the current recession is a lot of women who were working, who I see in the playground at school, are not working all of a sudden. There's one income in the family. Now, a lot of families, maybe one person working, not two, is fine, is maybe better, but I'm not sure that all those women wanted to stop working. I think it's just like around the edges, their jobs have disappeared, or and I think that it could have quite an aggressive effect on kind of social relations, and I think if both people want to work and they want to work the same hours, or the man's going to do less, that's a better way to go. Instead, it seems like my media is becoming more old-fashioned again. A lot of mums, who were working a year ago are not working now, they're picking up their kids from school every day, which is great in some ways, but I think that some of them seem quite disappointed with that. Why isn't it the man who's doing that?
More job share. I work as a job share. Militant job share.
And I think it's a very interesting thing that we're making, which perhaps we all bear the scars of, that people have to work extremely hard at the period when they're bringing up little children. It's a kind of, and people get very, very stretched, and it's not good for children.